Hello Podcats, Geoff Gascoigne here, hope you're well. Today I'm off to the West End of London to visit a bass superstar, a very old friend of mine. His name is Janek Gwizdala. He moved to America and became a very successful bass player, producer, publisher, podcaster, plays with everyone famous in the jazz world. We're going to have a chat about lots of things and catch up, so here we go.
The Quartet Jazz Standards podcast is brought to you by the Quartet app for iOS, taking your jazz play-along to another level.
Janek, how are you?
Jet-lagged.
Oh.
Well, I don't actually think I've been here long enough to be jet-lagged, though.
We just had a nice curry, though.
We did. That's the only reason I'm upright right now and sort of, able to put words into a sentence.
Yeah.
That ability will deteriorate over the course of this interview, I'm sure.
Can we start talking about how you got started in jazz?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely about going to see Tubby Wadlow, as he's affectionately known by me and a very few people. Of course, we're talking about Laurence Cottle initially. That was like the actual moment, I would say. Right. But there were a lot of moments around there, one of which I was talking to the drummer of not that long ago, maybe a year ago, Tristan Mayo, because I used to come and see you play with Tristan at the Drift Bridge in Epsom.
Really?
I wish there was video on this podcast, because the look Geoff is giving me like, whoa, that gig?
You were born in South London, weren't you?
Yeah, I was born in Hammersmith Hospital, grew up in Greenwich initially for 5 minutes. I'm just trying to delay the moment that I use the word Mitcham.
What's wrong with Mitcham?
I think there are a lot of things wrong with Mitcham, probably. Still to this day. I drove through. I think it's probably just more expensive now than anything.
Right.
But yeah, I grew up in South London, fairly unjazzy. I don't know how you would grow up jazzy unless you're my daughter or your kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was it came kind of late to me in terms of being into jazz and wanting to play it. But when it happened, it was immediate. It was Sunday at the Gun Tavern in Croydon. Yeah. Ian Thomas, Graham Harvey, Laurence Cottle, Nigel Hitchcock. Yeah. Claire Martin. Funny you just mentioned that tune as well. Claire Martin sat in and sang Perdido that day. I have the cassette tape. A friend of mine bootlegged the very first show that I saw. And
it's funny how you can remember things like that clearly, isn't it?
Clearly. Yeah. I remember, the Gun Tavern, which you must remember, right? The sticky floor and the smell of day-old beer. Not the nicest thing in the world, but all I wanted to be was a drummer. A friend of mine getting me to the gig was predicated on the drummer being good. Didn't give a shit who Laurence was or the bass or anything. And that was it. Sunday morning. Monday morning, went to Gig Sounds in Lewisham and bought a bass. And I think I met you very soon after, because that was Wavendon. And I'd only been playing about 2 weeks then. So that all happened 2 weeks before I met you.
And I was a teacher there, right?
You were a teacher there. It was 2 1-week courses. And like everything I've done in my life, I went for the first week and called my mum and said, can I stay for the second? And did.
I remember that so well. Yeah. I remember your energy as well. I remember you bobbing around.
Oh, it was mental. Yeah, I was 15. Yeah. This was literally 31 years ago. But yeah, and I remember I played my first gig at the end of that. I studied with you for 2 weeks at Wavendon and literally went home to London to a gig at London Bridge in a wine cellar and opened the real book at Letter. Because the only thing I could do was read. Could read really well, but I couldn't play jazz.
How come you could read? Did you learn before?
Because I played classical guitar before, and I played piano, and I played all kinds of instruments. I played orchestral percussion with John Merriman, Phil Merriman's brother, who I know has been on this podcast before. I played with John and another friend of ours, David Taylor, in the concert band, in the jazz band. I played piano. In the orchestra, I played tuned percussion, so I could read bass clef and treble clef really well. And I knew what chord symbols were. I knew that a C was where the C was on the bass. So I could open the real book and play root notes, sometimes a fifth, and make it through a gig of what would have been standards at the time, but having absolutely no clue who like Sonny Stitt was. I remember actually quite vividly credited you for this many times over the years in interviews. What's the record where Art Pepper just got out of prison and
Meets the Rhythm Section?
You'd be so nice to come home to. Yeah. You told me to listen to Art Pepper Meets the Rhythm Section. You told me to listen to
Probably Hank Mobley.
Witch Hunt.
Oh yeah,
Wayne Shorter. And Hank Mobley.
Yep.
The one with Irving Berlin.
Soul Station.
Oh, Soul Station, exactly. So those 3 records, hugely important. I had private lessons with you, of course, after that, like later on. You were like, you should check out these records if you're into jazz. Great. But the 4th record you dropped on me and told me to check out, which changed my life and is the only reason I can play the bass today, was Michel Ndegecello. And I don't remember if it was Plantation Lullabies or Peace Beyond Passion or maybe both of them, but it was like, this is where there's some bass. Like, this is where our instrument lives. That was like one of the best pieces of advice I ever got. And she's my favorite bass player of all time. And has become so.
Well, that record was probably mid-90s, wasn't it?
This all had to be early to mid-90s because I was 15.
Yeah.
Like, so 93 or something like that.
You know, there's certain records when you hear them for the first time and you can close your eyes, you can see the room.
I remember being in your house when you were telling me about these records.
Really?
And you'd played a couple of cuts off them and because you had them.
I remember where I was when I first heard that. I went and did a tour with a band called Us 3.
Oh, yeah.
In 1994 or 3, I think, which is when that record came out. I can close my eyes and I can see the tour bus.
Yeah.
And I can see that music when I first heard it.
Yeah.
How powerful that music is.
Hugely influential.
You know?
And she's an interesting artist as well because she's been one of those people. We all have a moment with certain artists, maybe you like a certain period of Miles.
Yeah.
And you're really into the cooking, relaxing period, but you're not really into the late 60s. Or you're really into the early 60s, but you don't like the fusion stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe you listen to the 60s and then you were really disappointed when he went rock.
Yeah.
And Michelle has been one of those people that I love so much. She has taught me not to have expectations about the next album. Because she did so much different, Bitter and all those records that came after that. Like Plantation Lullabies, Peace Beyond Passion, but very groove-orientated, funky, ridiculous bass playing that she did most of. And then it really changed. She went in some punk, some rock,
But that takes balls, doesn't it, to do that?
Absolutely.
Do you not think? Yeah.
Absolutely. But as a result, that's what I've tried to do my entire career. I think I'm on album number 17 now. And I'm in a part of my life where I've decided to make 3 albums a year for the rest of my life. So I'm trying to make like at least another 60 or 70 records before the end of my life, and none of them are going to be the same.
Yeah.
I haven't found the formula that works. Some of my records, although not popular at all, the ones that had some notoriety or popularity, I could so easily go and do that again. I could call the same people and go and write different tunes and do the same thing again. I've always tried not to. And I think Michelle taught me that in a big way.
Did you ever play double bass? Did you try to play double bass?
I was forced.
Yeah?
Everyone who went to the Royal Academy of Music had to go and have a cup of tea with Geoff Klein once a week,
Right.
So yeah.
But it wasn't for you, right?
Absolutely not. And Geoff was so cool about, he knew I wasn't interested. He knew I wasn't interested in playing, but he knew I loved the instrument. And he knew I loved the music that surrounded that instrument. And I don't drink tea. I've never tasted tea or coffee in my life. Still to this day, I'm that guy. But he would sit there drinking a cup of tea. I'd sit there drinking a glass of orange squash or something. And he would play me like, John Patitucci VHSs or Jazz Messengers things or something with swinging it. And we'd talk about music. I didn't give a shit about the actual instrument. It wasn't for me, but some of my favorite bass players in the world are upright bass players.
Why do you think it wasn't for you? I mean, it's bloody hard, I know that, but it's...
Everything's hard if you do it well, I know a pan flute player from Romania. Might be a dumb instrument on the face of it, but that guy can play giant steps. I think anything is hard if you do it well. I think the music I gravitated more towards in the late teens, early 20s was obviously fusion music and didn't feature that instrument.
Yeah.
As much as I love listening to Miles and all of that stuff from the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, I was listening to the Yellow Jackets, I was listening to Tribal Tech and Gary Willis. And I was listening to Anthony Jackson with Steve Kahn and Dave Weckler. That was the music I was into.
But that was a big time in the 90s, wasn't it, for all that stuff, Yellow Jackets, all those great bands,
Yeah, and they were really prolific and they toured and everyone was in their prime. You think of Gary Willis and Jimmy Haslip and all those great bass players of that time, completely in their prime in the 90s at the absolute peak. And there was me getting into improvised music, for want of a better word. I hate the term jazz, to be honest, because I think maybe that's getting towards being 80, 90 years old in its truest sense, but I like the term improvised music. And I tried not to have any prejudices and at the same time try not to let people like Graham Collier push me into you have to do this because this is part of jazz, you know, like actually I don't give a shit. You know, don't confuse me with someone who has any f***s to give. I've always sort of been a little bit like that, knew what I want pretty much right away and then just go after it.
When did you move to America?
98.
Was that an easy decision for you to take?
Yeah, very easy.
A bold decision, right?
Looking back on it, 100%. As a 46-year-old man right now, and parent and husband, everything, totally bonkers. At the time, I didn't care, worry. You know, I was 19. I was going to school, so I had that little.
We went to Berkeley, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to Berkeley.
Yeah.
As with the Royal Academy of Music, I went in 97 into 98, and then I went to Berkeley in 98, and I lasted as much time at each institution, one academic year basically, before I quit and moved to New York. But I had that buffer, that little like cushy little zone, and fortunate to be there with Walter Smith, Jaleel Shaw, Kendrick Scott. I mean, the list of people that were in not only in my year, but were in my like scholarship ensemble. My scholarship ensemble was Kendrick Scott, Rashawn Ross, Walter Smith. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Right.
And I got there like Lionel Lueke. I mean, those were my guys, you know, in the ensemble room jamming until 2 a.m. every night. That's what made me make the decision not to go home after Berkeley when I quit, but to move to New York. And yeah, it was a totally insane idea. And here I am, I've been 27 years.
When you were starting out with improvisation, what was your methods for learning to improvise? Did you transcribe things, for example?
I mean, absolutely. Like, I think you probably told me about that. Laurence told me about that. I used to hang a lot at Lawrence's house, and he always had this notebook. I'm sure we all have notebooks, right, that we make. I don't think I've seen yours, but I saw Lawrence's a lot, and it was just like little 4-note phrase, or a chord progression, or a bass line. So, and just Mike Stern calls them the scrolls of knowledge. Mike Stern has hundreds of them tucked under the bed, and I have dozens at least now, and that was very much drilled into me from an early age. Like, if you want to play this music, you have to listen, and then repetition, and having almost a limitless amount of willpower to do the work. But I loved the work right from the beginning. I got completely immersed in it and never looked back. It was also like an escape route for me as well, from my childhood and where I was in London, and it was just like a way out, you know.
Right.
I'm not saying I was living in the projects and I got a basketball scholarship to go make millions of dollars. I'm not trying to make any parallels to that kind of life, which is a very real thing, especially in the US. But from my specific set of circumstances and what I knew I didn't want to do, which was stay where I was, this was an amazing. The train was leaving, and I was definitely going to be on it. You know.
And you've had an amazing career, you know, doing what you've done.
I think I just did it, you know, without thinking about it. That's why when you say it's like, it's a big move, I wasn't thinking about it in those terms back then, you know. And I know we've talked about this before over the years, especially when you were in New York a lot, when I was still living there and you were touring there. We would see each other, and you were like, the time to do it was when you did it. Yeah. Like what you at that time 20 years ago was saying, like, I couldn't do this now. And I did it at the right time, because I think if I was back in the UK right now, I got very fortunate, man. Like, you threw me gigs, Phil Mulford threw me gigs, Laurence threw me gigs. Like, I played with a lot of the, you know, Sax Appeal and all the band, you know, the bands that we all did back then. And obviously me as an 18-year-old kid just getting my feet wet, but I did so many of the gigs right away. Yeah. And I was like, if I'm still doing, like, God bless Derek and all of the gigs that I did, not a bad word to be said against any of them. They were beautiful people. I learned a shitload. But I knew at the time, if I was still doing that gig in 30 years' time, I would regret not having tried to go and play with the people I loved. You know, I wanted to play with Bob Berg and Gary Novak and Dave Kikoski. Like, Bob Berg's band was the pinnacle of, like, fusion meets jazz meets kind of a little bit straight ahead, especially in the 90s with that new standard all stars. Like, we're talking about jazz in this podcast. That was sort of a new little, like, bump into Gary Novak sounding quasi straight ahead, but also from this Chick Corea Electric Band thing, but playing the vocabulary of Coltrane and Lehman, all these other things from the past, all coming together in this, like, with Kikoski behind it all, like driving the bus from the back, you know. that was huge, and I knew I wanted that to be in that energy.
Yeah.
You know, when I sat behind Gary Novak at Ronnie Scott's every night for 2 weeks, when he still had the hair, and just my face is melting from the energy of the drums, I'm like, how the hell is Ed Howard hanging on back there? I never forget those days, man.
When I was coming to New York all the time and you used to come and hang with us, that was hilarious. Jamie Cullum Trio went to play at the Algonquin, which was a very...
legendary music listening room.
Yeah.
Legendary.
Yeah.
So uptight.
Yeah.
I mean,
you rocked up in your baseball cap and your
Nikes,
tracksuit.
Yeah. Wagwan.
Yeah. Oh, that was so funny. Yeah.
I mean, 2002, 2003, I was so deep in the smooth jazz world.
Really?
That's why I was wearing all those clothes. They were all free. We were all sponsored by Nike. I was playing with an artist who was the only non-athlete to be signed to Nike for a clothing deal.
Wow, that's cool.
Signature suits and shoes and stuff.
We did a Tommy Hilfiger.
There you go.
Thing. Same thing, yeah.
Yeah, but that's not happening playing like, all the things you are. This was like smooth jazz, CD 101.9, when that thing was like, we talked earlier on a little bit, did out like producing record stuff. I was producing Ronnie Jordan stuff back then, deep in the smooth jazz world. And I was playing with a guy called Mike Phillips, and as a result, Jeff Lorber and Kurt Whalum, and we'd be the house band for smooth jazz festivals. Oh my God.
When you came to New York, this was the first things you did, was it?
A lot of it was smooth jazz. There was like 2 solid years of that, touring non-stop in the US. Non-stop. But also the story I was talking about earlier on about auditioning for my first pop gig and getting it based on having a photograph of myself. It wasn't even based on playing. That actually happened in 2000. That guy's album came out on 9/11.
Right.
And we had worked for 7 months before that. It was the most requested song on radio in the US, and the album came out on 9/11, and it was all over. It just ended. Him and Mariah Carey had an album come out on 9/11.
I remember when 9/11 happened, we were away with Jamie as well, and it all changed. I used to carry a double bass round in a case.
Yeah.
It all changed.
Forget that. Bass de jour from that point on.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was in New York, saw it all happen live, and Simon Carter was there with Jamiroquai. We'd gone to see Jamiroquai September 10th at the Hammerstein Ballroom. The Michael Jackson reunion, the history tour was at Madison Square Garden across the street.
Crazy.
It was crazy. And there were all these English people in town. There was a big award show or something.
Wow.
Frank Tonto, Craig David was in town, Tony Remy, all of these people, and nobody could leave. Yeah, it was a crazy time in New York. And then I moved to LA.
Why did you move to LA?
Ex-wife.
Right.
Because she moved out there because she was an actress, and I followed, and I had a pop gig with this girl called Jam, and I moved out there 2008, 2009, but then the gig fell through 2 weeks into living out there, and I was like totally screwed. So I went back to New York. I picked up another big pop tour in 2010, basically played 300 shows in 1 year, which was insane. And then by the end of that year, that was when I ditched the keys in New York and didn't go back. So I've been in LA for about 15 years full time, but 5 years back and forth before that. So yeah, that's the other thing about America, that a lot of people, unless you live there, don't realize how big it is, or unless you tour there, like you have so much. It is immense.
It's about 5 different countries all in one, isn't it?
And everything's a flight unless you're doing really small stops along the way. You can go and do radio promo in Florida and it'll take you 2 weeks just to get through a state. You come to the UK, you hit 3 radio stations and you're done.
That's right.
It's like really. So yeah, when I was living in New York and LA simultaneously, that was a lot of miles on the plane. Can
you talk us through your books and your YouTube channel? Because you've made a great success of that, haven't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, life has changed. I always joke now that I used to just be a bass player. I really did. I used to just pick up the bass and play it all the time, and that's completely changed. And I've been very particular more recently about how much I get engaged with the internet, because it's a total minefield of nonsense, basically, and it can really, I think it can drag you in all the wrong ways and sort of really screw up your decision making and your musical choices. You sort of lose sight of the point. I engage with YouTube, and that's it. I don't have any social media. Essentially, I write books, like you said. I'm on the 22nd or 23rd book right now, all about bass and about music and philosophies of music, certain specific elements like sight reading or playing chords or harmony. There's a we've cast the web quite wide at this point, and we are not amazingly not running out of ideas. There are like 9 books in the can waiting to go. You know, it's insane. And as a medium, it is shocking how popular a book is. And we recently figured out why, and I say we all the time because my wife works on them with me. My wife is a fantastic bass player and also amazing designer and music copyist. So if you have one of my books, she's the reason you can read it. We are kind of shocked that the book is so popular when there's so much like scrollable TikTok, Instagram stuff right on your phone. The book is still really popular, even in physical format. But we also realized why very recently is because it is a very low commitment purchase. If you purchase a subscription, it kicks you in the ass every month for $10, $20, $40. The book, you buy it once and it's all on you to use it as much or as little as you want, and it never costs you anything ever again. So a very interesting psychological way that this very old format has stayed incredibly relevant.
Having a physical piece of paper on a music stand is a great thing.
I love it.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of reading. I come from a classical background, like all of those things. Literally joking online today with a very, very popular bass YouTuber, Adam Neely, about, we got in a bit of a conversation, shall we say, about a situation that developed in Italy not that long ago. Very controversial case of somebody stealing other people's stuff and selling it and faking their videos, blah, 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 blah. I've affectionately named this moron Guacamole Tuna. Real name Giacomo Turra, for anyone who wants to go look into that saga. But Adam Neely published a video about it and we went back and forth a little bit. Someone suggested that we maybe have a little beef and we do a YouTube boxing match. Because that's the thing now. The 2 influencers, they do boxing on YouTube and it's a huge thing. I suggested maybe we have a sight reading contest. So he was all for it and all in good fun. But I'm a fan of that side of things. You know, I think there are a lot of sort of lost arts of what we do that are falling by the wayside. Yeah. Because they're just not necessary anymore in so many instances. But
I totally agree with you.
It doesn't make them any less valuable, you know.
Yeah, so many people just call themselves musicians who just have a laptop, and that's
right.
You know.
And there are some very immensely musical and creative people who use digital means to create their music. But I will say one of my main reasons for disengaging from the internet in general and social media is because it became too much of that. You know, it's like it used to be a meritocracy. Like you used to actually have to play to have a gig. You used to have to do the thing in order to be in the room. Now you can just pretend and everyone goes, wow, isn't that amazing? But you know that's fake, right? No, that's that guy's a genius. Yeah. No, it's all fake. Oh, wow.
How did you get to where you are now, though? How did that build up over the years? How did you get that started?
Actually, by having a podcast. When podcast started, it just came up. It was like, you know, Steve Jobs did a keynote speech and like, we're launching podcasts. I watched all Steve Jobs speeches, very fascinated, big fan. I was like, podcast, that seems easy and free. Let's do that. And I did it. I've had a podcast since 2006. Right. When Adam Carolla, like a decade before Joe Rogan almost, like I've been on the bleeding edge of podcasting. And that was another surprising thing back then when it was audio only. It actually engaged people. Yeah. I think it's all about being honest and creating a relationship with your audience. Yeah. I've always been like, this is me, this is what I do. And I think the people who are along for the ride appreciate that. And those who aren't, great, I don't need you. You know, I think cultivating a mailing list, as old school as that is, like a literal email list, is by far my most valuable asset as a small business owner. Yeah, I've got almost 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, but it pales in comparison to what an email list of like a fifth of the size does for actually communicating with people. Right. So I think gaining trust, being really open and honest, also being open about the process as well. Like we're talking about jazz and learning improvisation and how jazz has played a pivotal role in my life and your life, of course. Like being open about the fact that I think I suck most of the time. But I've got fans who like worship me as like, I can't do anything wrong. I'm like, no, I do all wrong most of the time. And sometimes I get it right. And then I go home and cry because I know I'm not going to get it right the next time. Like it's really, those are the thoughts that go through my head. And I share that with people and people are like, oh shit, he leaves his mistakes in, you know, when I make a video and I'm explaining something. I don't polish it up or go back and do 5 more takes. I just say, oh, I didn't get that right. Look at that. Right. You know, and trying to teach people that the only time you learn something is when you make a mistake. It's like, great, play the 2-5-1 lick that you know how to play. Great, you do that for the rest of your life and you'll never get it wrong.
Yeah.
And learn nothing, you know?
Yeah.
But like, curiosity, like that's going to be your friend.
Yeah,
you know?
But honesty. It's about honesty.
Honesty and curiosity, yeah. The two go kind of hand in hand, especially with jazz. You know, I don't think people give jazz enough enough credit for being a language as Turkish or Hebrew or something. You know, like they just it's such a monetized and institutionalized commodity now, and has been since the 60s almost, when I think Graham Collier was one of the first people who went to Berkeley in the 60s. You know, this like, but you listen to Barry Harris, and Barry Harris said, Dorian. You don't call it Dorian. It's not Dorian. Yeah. It's like, it's music, you know, like Steve Smith, who I'm here in London playing with, most people know him for being the drummer in Journey and playing on Don't Stop Believing and Open Arms and all of these tunes. But this guy played with Ahmed Jamal, for Christ's sake. And he has the original handwritten charts and these huge heavy pieces of paper. He showed them to us like once. We're in the piano player and we look at them and there's not a single chord symbol on the entire set. Not one chord symbol, just voicings. This is the sound I want. I don't want C7. What is C7? C7's 50 different things if you want it to be. Okay. And it's little things like that, little details that the monetization of jazz gets wrong most of the time.
Right.
Because mum and dad can't send little Jimmy off to school if there's no curriculum, if it's vague, you know.
But this is the problem with teaching jazz, isn't it? It has to be made into an academic subject.
Right. The tragedy.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, with something that's so subjective and personal and, you know, I'll be the first to admit that there are building blocks that perhaps we would all benefit from having a grasp of, that you can theoretically analyze in a theoretical sense. Okay, fine. But 4 years of that in university, and in year 4 you're still talking about technical terms.
Whether I was fortunate or not, but I didn't go to college, so...
Right. Well, you went to art school, right?
I went to art school.
Yeah.
So that meant I just taught myself everything about jazz. Right. So I worked out my own method to learn how to play.
Right.
Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know.
I think that's a great thing. I think I spent as little time as possible at the 2 schools I went to. I figured it out very quickly that this is bullshit, basically. Right. You know, and I got the most out of hanging out with teachers, private teachers, people with experience, more experience than me, great experience, big gigs. I'm getting goosebumps about it now because that's the time I remember getting like excited. Oh, there's this thing. Geoff's doing this gig. Yeah. And like literally, we look back on it now and it could literally be like the story of your bass falling off the stage. It could literally be just like a little gig at the festival hall foyer. But I got excited about knowing you were doing that gig as a 16-year-old kid and thinking, whoa, I could be on that stage one day.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Me, you know.
Yeah.
And as a result, I don't think I've lost sight of that.
You probably, I'm sure you'll remember, when we were on tour with Jamie and the trumpet player left. Okay.
I was hoping to avoid this one, but go on.
No, it's a great. I think it's a great story. And so you learned to play trumpet, right?
Yeah.
Just so that you could get in the band, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't work out in the end, but
I wasn't very successful.
But hats off to you. You know.
Well, the funny thing was, and I don't know if you were sitting with them at the time, but Jamie called me, and I want to say you were at like some sort of sporting event, might even have been the Olympics somewhere, and Jamie said, I'm going to call Janek and ask him who I should get to be the multi-instrumentalist, but obviously mainly a trumpet player in the band. And Sebastian leaned over to him and he said, you know he's going to say him, right? Like, Sebastian already, because we're talking about my roommate in college, Sebastian de Crong, like, he already knew I was going to, like, go find a trumpet and learn how to play it to do the gig. And Jamie's like, nah.
But you did.
And I did. And then Jamie said something along the lines to Bash about, like, if he says that, I'm absolutely going to give him a chance to do it. Like, I won't even think about anyone else. And he apparently, Bash told me later, he got off the phone and Jamie's like, no, way. Like,
that just shows you that, you know, the determination.
Well, I loved it. That's the thing. I just was in love with it. You know?
Did, and you were at every concert we did, and you would hang out with us, and it was just a great hang, and it was. I mean, it was good times, you know, for us, you know, for all of us, you know, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I've asked you to play a standard for us.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you've jet lagged and you're.
Not even jet lagged. I've just been up for 40 hours now.
That's.
Or is it 30 something hours? Because I have flight delay and everything, and I haven't been to sleep yet. What time is it now? It's like it's 9 p.m. here.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I've picked a tune. Have I? Right?
You have.
Yeah, I have.
What have you picked?
I've picked. Why did I do this to myself? I should have picked Blue Bossa, but I picked.
You can choose any tune.
No,
you
it's
want.
just because it's the one thing I can probably remember.
Okay.
It's weird, right? Like, just as soon as you started mentioning standards, it's something that has been so incredibly important as a framework to work on motivic development, melodic development, like just understanding harmony, key changes, the whole neck of the bass. It's like such a pivotal thing for me, like playing standards, but I haven't played them in like 20 years, and that's not strictly true, because Mike Stern will call a standard, but he has like 5 that he wants to play.
Right.
So we play, Alone Together and Doctor in Dolphin Street. So I can't go to a club in New York and just go, yeah, every time somebody turns around and names a tune, because I just haven't done it my whole life. So this is a little bit of a challenge like that, but it's a nostalgic one, shall we say.
Excellent. All right.
That's the other thing. I do grab a tune once in a while and just play it at home, and it happens to have been Moment's Notice this week.
I'll give you two choruses.
2 choruses, okay.
All right. First chorus will be like the tune.
Okay.
With the kicks.
All right.
And the second chorus will be walking. We're not playing the tune, so you can just improvise.
Yeah, I don't even know if I can remember the tune at this point.
Okay. Right. Well, I'm going to unplug one of these mics, and then we'll go into.
Oh, nice.
It's all happening here.
Yeah, a little bit of
West
atmosphere.
End. West End.
West End.
That was great. How did that feel?
Awful. I mean, not just for me personally. It's like, we should explain to the listeners, I'm sort of propped up at the end of the bed. It's hardly the posture I strive for. But so many things go through my head with that. Like, and it's interesting, like, the framework here was 2 choruses for this. And I'm like, I start to think too much in 2 choruses. One thing I've been really conscious of lately is not playing for the audience when I make records. Never, ever, ever playing for the audience, just playing for myself. It ends up being a far more honest performance at the end of the day. It's what I want to listen to. It's the reason I make the music. If people want to listen to that, that's fantastic. Then they're a fan, great. But I'm not doing it for them. And thoughts of that creep into doing something like this, because I'm like, shit, I want to do it for them right now. It's 2 choruses. I've got to give them something. Like, we're here doing a really specific, dialed-in thing. So my first reaction, unfortunately, through the first half of chorus was thinking way too much. That would probably be very easy to identify, and maybe I get more into a flow in the second chorus.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, just adjusting for the unrealistic circumstances under which we're recording right now is very interesting. And at the same time, it's it exposes time, you know, which is one of the most important things. Like, literally, my entire merch is time and sound.
Yeah.
Like all my t-shirts, all my hats. That's what I talk about. My entire life is time and sound. So
on a technical level, when you're playing Moment's Notice, are you thinking of chord centres? Are you thinking of specific 2-5-1s? Just give me an example of how you would start to approach playing that tune.
Yeah, well, luckily, good that I chose this tune. I actually made a video for my YouTube channel about this the other day, which I didn't intend to be a lesson. I intended to, the video, it comes out tomorrow actually, and it's entitled like I Left All the Mistakes In, and it's just me practicing for about 15 minutes working on this tune. Something came up in the middle of that, which really speaks to your question here about how I approach it, that I decided to stop, break the fourth wall and talk to the camera and say, oh, actually, I'm doing this right now. But it's very important to say I only do this when I'm practicing. I'm not thinking about anything when I play the tune. Zero. It's all muscle memory. The only two things I'm ever conscious of when I'm improvising are repetition and change. Have I been working on the same kind of idea for too long? In which case, we need to move, we need to change. Or am I all over the place? Do I need some more repetition to center the story? Then we use repetition. That's basically the only two things I'm not thinking of, like, oh, it's E minor to F to E. I'm not thinking about any 2-5s. Nothing. Just because I've done thousands of hours of playing this tune, it's all under the fingers. I don't have to think about it. But there are certain things when I'm like perhaps stagnated and I'm like, I know I've played that before and don't want to do it again.
So you're talking about licks?
Yeah, if I hear things coming up, pieces of vocabulary, we've all used the word and if and but and to and from a bajillion times. We don't get upset because we use the word and, if, but, to and from. But if I just sit here going and, it might get a bit boring, you know. So there are moments like that where I realize I'm perhaps making the same point. We can't make the analogy to a single word, but maybe I'm saying the same phrase. I really like to make the parallel between spoken language and improvisation. Maybe I'm using the same phrase over and over again. Yo, man! I've said, yo, man, like over and yo, what's up, yo? Like, that'll get annoying after a while. So that's where I'm at, and in order to break that up and to have more information, more vocabulary for this tune, I think about it when I'm practicing, but never when I'm performing. If I think about it when I'm performing, I'm bullshitting you. Moment's Notice, for those of you playing the home game, is a lot of 2-5s. There's 2-5s everywhere. Moves all over the place, 50 different key centers. Maybe I'm trying to get rid of some of the 5s in place. I know a lot of people see a 2-5 and they lean on the 5 more than the 2. In order to get maybe a little bit of a different flavor, I expand on the 2 a little bit, and then I'm working up 1, 5, 9, 10, 5, flat 7, 9 on the top, maybe a 11, but when they're moving past at a real clip, then you get into some interesting shit that sounds more like linear playing. Slowed down and exposed, it sounds more like just an arpeggio and a chord. But when you get it going at a bit of a clip, then it starts to sound interesting
and very hard, not just interesting.
It's not easy. I've had to work on it a little bit, and then the first three bars, for instance, are E to A, F to B flat, ending on this E flat major 7. I've also been trying to introduce E flat major 7 sharp 9, so I'm getting the minor third and major third in what is the 1 chord at that point. So basically E flat major 7 sharp 9 being the 6th mode of G harmonic minor.
Get very technical now.
Yeah, so I mean, there's got to be some jazz nerds listening to this podcast, and if you aren't a jazz nerd yet, you will be by the end of it. So basically what that allows you to get this really nice, instead of just our plain old with our nice little natural 9 on the E flat, we get into all these other sounds which are totally E flat. They are totally the 1 chord, just a little bit of a different flavor. And the fact that it goes by so quick, man, working on those things, getting those things into the playing is hard, but there's a great result coming at the end of it.
Have you ever looked at sort of bebop vocabulary over something like this?
Yeah. I mean, a ton of what I'm playing in there is like...
What you're doing there is something else. That's not bebop.
What I'm doing right there, for sure, is something else. There are a lot of, a lot of chromatic approach note things. There's a lot of bebop in there. And yes, of course, I think it was Tim Garland who validated that I'd listened to bebop. You know, these words come around, you know, and you were young, and I was like 17 or 16, 17 or something, and I was on another jazz course up north somewhere, and Tim was teaching, and I had checked out a lot of bebop, you know, Sonny Stitt and Charlie Parker and Dizzy and all these people.
Yeah. And
I played a solo on something, and Tim turned around and said, well, yeah, Janek's taking more of a bebop approach to that. And I was like, am I? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Like, it's coming out in my playing. And that was one of those moments where you're like, oh yeah, I've worked on this stuff.
I think a lot of that is to do with the music you're playing. If you're playing Blues for Alice or something, you're gonna sound like a bebop. If you're playing a modal thing, or maybe some of the music that you play, more modal music and more sort of funk music.
Again, like jazz standards and like the framework of chord changes and AABA forms and stuff like that, bebop has been amazingly useful, but it's not something I lean on every day. You know, I do all these. I have all of these like bebop approach exercises and stuff. I've got tons of them in my books. I use them all the time because they're great technical, you know.
Now, to me, that sounds like classical music. That sounds like Bach or something.
It's the Hannon. Virtuoso pianist. That was my Bible when I was a kid. My dad was a piano player. I did it every day, every stinking day. But when you put a chromatic approach either above or below to each of the starting points of the 4-note cell, and you're right, of course it's Bach.
It starts to sound like
bebop
jazz.
is Bach. Listen to Brad Mehldau being interviewed by Rick Beato, and there's a whole thing where they talk about Bach, and Brad goes, well, of course, and he plays Bach, and you're like, well, that could have been in 1940 in Charlie Parker's band.
Incredible, yeah.
You know,
amazing.
So,
yeah. So to finish off, can I just have a few questions? Just quick fire questions. That's all right. Which I ask everybody.
Okay.
Some of them will be easier to answer than others.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to start off with, what's your favourite album?
Wait, that's impossible.
I know it's impossible, but
yeah, I mean, I'm going to probably have to say the deluxe edition of Kind of Blue. I mean, it's got everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's got soul, it's got melody, it's got time, it's got, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Impossible question to answer. Next.
Favourite musician, alive or otherwise, that you would like to play with?
Wow, that's really tough. Impossible. I would say like maybe 60s Tony Williams. Play with Tony Williams in the 60s would have been the ultimate lesson in time. On milestone albums, I think this is the greatest. Him or Philly Joe. I don't know. It immediately goes to like, things that have impacted me the most are the things of when I've been in the room and experienced it. Not watching a video, not listening to a record, it's being in the room and you get blown away. And I just would love to have had the opportunity to be in the room in some of those moments. Jack DeJohnette playing with McCoy Tyner in the 60s. Like shit that people almost don't know that happened even. Yeah.
I interviewed Stan Saltzman the other week. He went over to New York in 1966 and he went to see the Miles Quintet in the Village Gate or something.
Oh.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah, I mean, these questions are impossible because the list, you open up a Pandora's box of wanting to be there with Wayne, like 63 Herbie, you know, like,
or Coltrane.
Coltrane,
just being in the room with Coltrane. Can you imagine?
Red Garland or Wynton Kelly or one of those guys, or just, you know, going to a Paul Chambers concert as an audience member. Never mind playing with.
I can't imagine.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
amazing would that be? Yeah. What would you say to date was the highlight of your career?
Jeez, wow. How to unpack 30 years of gigs and pick one.
Yeah, it's hard.
Impossible. These questions need emailing 6 months.
No, this is the beauty of it. I know, but it's hard. It's hard.
Career highlight. My God. Okay. It's the greatest experience I've ever had in a recording studio. And it was an incredible honor that it was with my own band, and it was with Tom Corley and Nicholas Vicaro and my engineer Juan Pablo Caro in this recording studio in an 11th century castle in Spain, and it was the greatest studio experience and quite possibly the best musical experience I've ever had. And it's out there as a record. It's called One Way Out.
It's a great album as well. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. We just went in with no expectations, and everyone just did very well. And it just worked.
Tom's great, isn't he? Yeah,
It's ridiculous.
What was the last concert you attended?
Brad Meldau Trio 3 weeks ago with Christian McBride and Marcus Gilmore.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But that was good.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah.
Where was that?
One of the theatres in downtown Los Angeles, big place, a couple of thousand people.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was the first night of the tour. It was all new music. It was interesting. Like, I'm the biggest Brad fan, and of course Christian and one of my favorite ever, and Marcus Gilmore was just exceptional. But it was very interesting from the standpoint of they were feeling each other out very much. First night of the tour, in a room that wasn't suited to jazz. So it was a very interesting dynamic, and I kind of wish I'd been able to go and see them like today, like 3 weeks into it, and see how that had developed.
Do you ever get nervous on stage?
Never. And I think about it often, because I get the question a lot on clinics and masterclasses. Hey, do you ever get nervous? What do you do to overcome this, that, and the other? I'm like, shit, I'm the worst person to ask, because I don't. And I often question why I don't.
Yeah.
You get sort of deep and philosophical about it. But I think like we talked about earlier on, I've never lost sight of where it all started and how into it I was, like, from the first day.
Yeah.
So it's only gotten better from there.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you think that's got a lot to do with confidence? In not being afraid of mistakes?
For sure. And there's also something I think a lot of people don't understand can be learned. Some people look at me and they're like, oh, he's just naturally confident. They like write it off. Oh, it's just one of those naturally confident people. But I think you can learn that if you're open to the mistakes everywhere. You know, if you are all about the process and not about the goal, then you're in great shape. And that's how I've always been. The other similar question to that is, like, do you, when you know there's like a cat in the audience, when there's somebody heavyweight, like
that was going to be my next question.
Oh, it is. So please ask the question.
Yeah. No, go on. That's it.
That's it. Yeah. When somebody's heavyweight in the audience, and the question has two parts. Maybe it's like when you know they're there, and then you have to go out on stage, or when you find out afterwards, and you're like, oh. You know, like, God, I wish I hadn't played that. I get way more of that feeling.
You know someone's there.
So that's the question.
How does that affect your playing?
Not at all, actually. I think maybe only in a positive way. Especially if it's something like, I'll give you an instance. When after that tour of the album we just talked about with Nico and Tom, we went on tour in Europe, did a little tour, and we played in Monaco, and sitting not 20 feet from the stage is big boy Johnny Mac. You know, John McLaughlin lives in Monaco. My drummer was playing in his band 3 months beforehand. Johnny Mac comes out with his wife and his kid for dinner. Boom! That's Mr. Maha Vishnu right there eating scallops while I'm trying to play my stupid little jazz tunes, you know? And no, it was like, it made me think about all the things I loved about him. Yeah. It made me have all of these thoughts that I would never normally have thought about. This random John McLaughlin album that I'd listened to when I was a kid, you know.
Yeah.
But it made me think about vividly Mike Chadwick on Jazz FM playing John McLaughlin, Free Spirits Trio live at Tokyo, playing the album, playing Little Miss Valley, and me just about to go to sleep and turn the radio off. Then I hear that, I'm like, oh shit. And this is a history lesson for you all. Jumped out of my bed, ran to the radio, got a pen, piece of paper, and prayed that Mike would say what the hell it was afterwards.
Yeah, I remember that so well. Yeah.
And that was John McLaughlin, Free Spirits, live in Tokyo. I was like, and then like, oh, I don't have enough money for that CD. I'm 15 years old. So save up for a couple of weeks and then go to the record. So like between hearing it for the first time and hearing it for the second time, 2 or 3 weeks expired.
Yeah.
Little things like that. When somebody big is in the room, I did a tour for 2 months in Europe, opening for Herbie. So every night, I'd look over there and Herbie with a big grin, standing on the side of the stage. I'm like, oh, you know, it really had the effect of, oh man, Herbie playing on Fee Fi Fo Fum, like just put me in a space.
What's your favourite sandwich?
Oh, I don't eat sandwiches, man. I really don't. I can't remember the last time I had a sandwich. It's been years.
What about favourite movie?
Oh, it depends. Like right now it's a toss-up between two pretty random ones. One is The Last Waltz, which is the story of the band. You know that?
No.
The band that backed Bob Dylan, like the band, Levon Helm and all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And the dumbest movie ever, The Pope Must Die with Robbie Coltrane. It's a dumb movie from the early 90s. I don't know why that has stuck in my head for years.
I've got to tell you a funny story, actually.
Please.
I was watching this movie Conclave the other night.
I watched it on the plane coming over here for the second time.
Right.
Love it.
I fell asleep in the middle of Conclave, right? I woke up in the middle of Angels and Demons, which was Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks, yeah.
Trying to get rid of the Illuminati in Rome.
Yeah.
And for about half an hour,
thought it was the same
film. I literally did.
Conclave with antimatter.
Yeah. And for half an hour, it made sense.
Well, that's bad that it made sense.
Yeah, I know. And
crazy.
I thought, what's happened to Stanley Tucci?
Yeah,
Where's
Stanley
he gone?
Tucci and Ralph Fiennes. Yeah. I thought it was a great movie.
And all of a sudden, Tom Hanks shows up.
Yeah, what's he doing here?
What's he doing there?
That's a good one, man.
Do you have a favourite venue that you like to play in?
Yeah, I mean, it's not there anymore, like always, a lot of great venues. If we're talking about jazz, and if we're talking about something that's like I have a massive emotional connection to, it would have to be the 55 Bar in New York, because I played, it has to be over 1,000 gigs there. You know, I played 300 with Mike Stern alone in that place, and I had a residency there with my own band for years. I made my second album live there.
Right.
But also, I'm here in London at Ronnie's, which is crazy. Did you know I used to work at Ronnie's?
No.
Not a lot of people know this. Yeah, we'll get there. Plug cables in and set the band up on it. Remember, it used to be Monday sound check.
Yeah.
Monday through Saturday, breakdown Saturday night. So I'd come in Monday daytime, do the sound check with everyone, set it all up. I get to stay. They pay me a little bit, 15 quid or so, whatever it was, a little bit of money. But we're talking about 1994, 95. I'd be up here in the West End every night. I'd get to see every show for free.
Yeah.
That's how I was at Bob Berg every night, every set.
There you go.
And so Ronnie's holds up very, I'm here in London playing at Ronnie Scott's with Steve Smith, which is no small deal, because Steve is a big part of why I moved to America. There were two albums. There was the Brecker Brothers live in Barcelona and Steps Ahead 1986 live in Tokyo. And I've now played with everyone on both of those records. And Steve is a massive part of that Tokyo record. So it's big connections. So I guess Ronnie's here and the 55 Bar there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What about a favourite country or a city?
Oh, that's a toss-up between Spain and Japan, but for very different reasons. You know, I probably live in Spain but spend a lot of time in Japan, culturally speaking. It's a little bit. You've been to Japan many times. You know how crazy Tokyo is, and I like the mountains outside of Barcelona, a little bit more low key. You know,
You're getting old now you're a father, and you've matured a lot. You want different things out of life.
A little. Let's go with a little. I've matured a little.
Right. So one last question.
Yes.
What's your favourite chord?
Right now, it's sort of anything major 7
Feel free
sharp,
to play it
sharp
on the-
9. Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends. It's I've been working a lot on Neo-Riemannian triadic transformation theory.
Come again?
Neo-Riemannian triadic transformation theory.
Okay.
It's a big, long, ugly title to basically say how you move from a major triad to a minor triad, sometimes moving 2 voices, but mainly moving 1, C major, and move 1 voice to go to C minor, move 1 voice.
You mean one note?
One note, sorry, 1 voice of the chord, 1 voice of the triad. Move 1 from C minor, 1 voice to go to A flat major, move 1 voice, A flat minor.
Yeah.
Move another voice. We're already in E major and we started in C, so we've moved a major third, not a common interval to move in, with only very few motions, single note motions.
Right.
E major to E minor, and 1 note to go back to C. And of course there are sliding ones where you move 2 notes, you go from C to F minor. It's more common to the ear to go 4 minor to 1, but yeah, so a lot of motion, like Debussy is using this, like a lot of classical and some romantic era composers using that.
This is just good voice leading, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's good voice leading and bleeds into counterpoint. I'm writing a lot for choral music right now. I'm writing a lot for voices. I'm working on an album for the Bulgarian like women's voices, like women's choir.
Okay.
So yeah, that's sort of on my mind. So 1 chord, probably major 7 sharp 9, just because I'm way into that sound right now. But in the broader sense, that's sort of a direction I'm going in, just trying to study more than I ever have. and try and relate that to the bass, and try and relate that not just to chords but to linear ideas as well. Wayne Shorter's basically entire career, he never played a line, he always played triads, and so you end up playing quite angular stuff, but it's all basically triads underneath, and shifting from major to minor, and how you superimpose them on regular standard harmony, jazz standard harmony. Pretty fascinating stuff. Totally nerdy. It's another 7 lifetimes worth of work, but it keeps me occupied on the evenings.
Lovely. Thanks so much for your time. It's been great.
My pleasure.
Hope the gig goes well tomorrow.
Yeah, and I hope I make my flight the next morning.
All right.
Cool, man.
Thanks.
You got it.
Love you.
Thank you for making it to the end of another podcast. Please subscribe if you want to hear more of them as they land. The Quartet Jazz Standards podcast is a UK Music Apps production. Quartet for iOS, taking your jazz play-along to another level. Search for Quartet on the App Store or find out more at quartetapp.com.